Hello, this is Mike Swanson. I run the website WallStreetWindow.com, and the odds are that you're watching this video because you found out about it by being on my email list. Now, if you're not on the list, click the link associated with this video to opt in. And if you're someone that's randomly found this by being on YouTube, subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the bell that you see, and then YouTube will notify you the next time I put up a video. It's important to get all my emails and all my video updates. So on Monday, the price of gold went up, closed around $1,740 an ounce. The price of silver, though, also went up even more than the price of gold to close right under $19 an ounce. It was briefly below 14 in March. The mining stocks, of course, went up even more. But for the past 2 years, mining stocks and the metals themselves have been outperforming the stock market. So when the stock market dropped in March, gold just pulled back a little bit over 10%, and it just made a new 52-week high several weeks ago. And the right mining stocks are really taking off. And that comes to the pick of the month. My top stock pick for the month is a gold mining stock. Talked about it Monday morning, and it did very well. The symbol is IO on the Vancouver Exchange. The company is Inca One Metals. The symbol is INCAF on the U.S. over-the-counter market. It's dual listed. And the company has a milling operation in Peru, in Central America. This enables it to process gold, melt it down, and then sell it. And in the last quarter, it produced 5,000 ounces of gold. It's on track to do 25,000 ounces of gold this year. And at the current price of $1,740, multiply that by 25,000, that's a lot of revenue that this company generates. But what I like about the stock is it's breaking out. The price action is fantastic. The momentum is to the upside, which is important when it comes to individual stocks. But the fundamentals are also awesome, because this is a company with a big revenue stream, and the market cap compared to that revenue is a lot less. The price to sales ratio, for example, is much lower even than 0.50. It's hard to find any stocks like that. And we're talking about gold, which is red hot, outperforming the stock market. You're talking about mining stocks, and then a situation where stock is super cheap and breaking out the way it's doing. So what I'm going to do to help you find out more about this company is run an interview by a friend of mine with the CEO of the company. They did together a week ago. My friend is David Skarica, runs the website addictedtoprofits.net. He did an interview with the CEO of Inca One Metals. Before I run that interview, though, I'm going to show you a clip I got from them showing them pouring gold, and how so you can see yourself how this works in operations. And then on to Dave and the CEO of Inca One Gold.
Hi, this is David Skarica, editor of addictedtoprofits.net, and this is another in our series of interviews with small cap opportunities. And one thing that I've talked about in recent months, as I felt that gold and silver was bottoming, was I think that earlier on in the cycle, you want to look for these near production plays that have resources in the ground and can go into production, basically plays that can have cash flow, because you have this double-edged sword in a good way, when gold breaks out with a smaller production play, in that they can produce more as prices go higher, and the prices are going higher, so their margins will go higher. So I think I found an excellent company, and actually this company is also kind of like a refining play as well, and they're actually going to be a company that sells their own gold and precious metal, metals themselves to you. So, and actually a company named First Majestic also does as well. And so the company's called Inca One. They're in Peru. I've always loved Peru as kind of a mining jurisdiction. Two of the best deals I've ever had personally were Tinka back in 2010, 2011, and Fortuna. And I've visited both their properties in Peru, and I'm hoping to visit Inca One as well. And actually, Edward, who's on the phone, he sent me a really cool video of them pouring the gold at Inca One's processing facility. So I'll probably maybe enclose that video underneath this interview. But Inca One's IO on the TSX, and they just rolled back the stock, so the share structure is super tight. And like I said, they're a producing play. They're going to have cash flows, and as gold and silver continue to move higher, their margins could continue higher. And one thing that I think personally, which Edward can expand on, is I think where the leverage can be in a company like this that sells their own PMs is there is higher prices that you can get on the physical market as compared to, the futures or paper market. So thanks for being here. And as we start, tell us a bit about yourself, how you set up the company, and kind of the philosophy behind the company.
Well, thanks, Dave, for this opportunity to speak to you and your group of investors. A little about myself. I've been working with public companies for about 20 years now. Been focused on sales, marketing, and business development. Started off in the technology space, working with some different technology companies back in the .com space, and eventually found myself here in the resource sector, working in Vancouver. Obviously, it was a natural fit, and obviously my family's been working in this space for a generation as well, so second generation working in mining. And for about 10 years now, we've been working down in Peru. Founded the company just over 10 years ago called Inca One. And we started off as a traditional junior resource company. But in early 2014, we pivoted to cash flow from your traditional junior resource company. And the reason for that, there was a big push by the government to be able to formalize a small-scale mining sector in Peru. And there are over a million legal now small-scale miners in Peru that mine but do not have their own gold ore processing facility. So Inca One owns and operates two top-of-the-line gold ore processing facilities. And we buy the miners' gold ore and process it for them in the most efficient and environmentally safe manner, and give the miners peace of mind they are being paid the highest return for their ore and mining efforts possible. So that's essentially what we do. We buy small-scale miners' ore, we process it, and then we turn it into doré, and then we are currently sending it to Europe for sale and refining.
And then, sorry to interrupt, but I think another little story behind that, so people would know, is that one reason they've done that, and a lot of, I think they're doing that in Colombia as well, is because a lot of these small-scale mines before would be operated by drug cartels or illegal kind of consortiums. So this was a way kind of legitimizing I'm tongue-tied today. The small-scale miners, and making it like a legal business rather than maybe a way for criminals to money launder. You can tell me if I'm right or wrong on that, but I know I've done a few.
100%.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, 100%. And that's one of the key things that when in 2014, when we pivoted into this space for these services and producing gold, was that it was being formalized, and there was a need for legal processing plants to be processing this mineral. And one of the things that driving it was that Peru, the country that is going through the process to become a member of the OECD, so this is one of the things on their list to formalize their whole economy, was a big piece of it, as the small-scale mining sector is just as big in Peru as the large-scale gold-producing sector is, and it's number one. Peru is the number one producer of gold in South America, number 6 in the world. So it's a multi-billion-dollar industry in itself.
So in terms of like how much production did you do last year of gold and silver? What are you planning on doing? And again, because you guys are processing, like what's the dynamics in terms of selling the gold, processing it, the costs, etc.? Because it's a little different than just say mining gold out of the ground.
Yeah, exactly. Well, in 2019, we just come off a record year of production for ourselves. We are a small cap gold producer with the 2 gold ore processing plants, and we have a total capacity of 450 tons per day of permitted and built out capacity. So in 2019, we produced just around 25,000 ounces of gold and 40,000 ounces of silver, and that used just 35% of our capacity. So our top line revenue is around $35 million US. It took us about a cash flow break even. So the narrative there is that we fill the remaining 65%, and we'll have a potential of about 75,000 ounces of gold, and that's where the company starts making money. Obviously, over this period right now, and we'll have about 10 million. Our competition, we can see, is making about 10 million in earnings around those levels, and our market cap today is just around 12 million Canadian. When we how the kind of the business model works, it's roughly about a 70-30 kind of split. So 70% of the depending on grade, of course, but on grades that we're averaging is about a half ounce per ton. Then about 70% of the revenue goes to the miner, and 30% of it goes to Inca One for the processing and exporting of the doré.
Okay, and in terms of your capital position, like how much cash do you have in the bank? And one thing too, like I said, you guys did a rollback, so that's made the share structure extremely tight, and that's always one of my big things for investing in junior companies, because you could have hundreds of millions of shares out, and you don't know where the stock's coming from, and a lot of the money could be raised significantly higher, and people are just trying to get out even. But with this rollback and the kind of tight share structure and how much the insiders and big shareholders own, there's not really a lot of stock outstanding in the company.
Yeah, it's really tight now. After the rollback, which we completed in January of this past year, we have about 27.5 million shares outstanding. And we've got 2 large significant shareholders representing about 40% of that, and a transaction that we accomplished in 2018. And insiders and management own about, the board owns about 14%. And then there's a few small funds that own roughly about 15%, and the rest is within retail investors. So, and as far as cash goes, we're a little bit different company in that basis too. We're not your traditional junior resource company where you kind of like you raise money and you put it in the ground.
Yeah.
We're about working capital. So the more working capital we'll have, the more ore we can buy, and then we process it, and then we export it, and then we get paid. So we've got about $4 million in cash that we're turning over, $4 million US in cash that we're turning over right now, and we just go and we buy as much ore as we possibly can, and then we process it, and then we sell it. It's just a process that we go through: buy, process, and sell.
And in terms of, I know this is in its infancy, but this is something that me and you first started talking about when the first conversation we had, for a few weeks ago. So, in terms of, you were talking about maybe selling the metal itself, like coins, or bars, etc., to retail investors. And one of the ideas now is that you're getting such a premium in the physical market over the paper market for gold and precious metals, or over the futures market. So what is kind of the plan behind that? And I'm just telling you personally, I'm going to be a buyer. Like, I don't, considering everything going on in the world with printing money, huge deficits due to this depression caused by COVID. It's not a recession. I'm interested in buying. So how is you planning to do that? How would one go about buying the physical from you, etc.?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it's something that in this new world that we're about to re-enter into, and the new way of doing commerce and business, we are going to be looking for additional channels to be able to sell our metal to, and at higher prices. You know, we can see that I think for better margins, we can see here now that by setting up a certain percentage of our inventory made available to be able to sell off of our website in an e-commerce bullion store, then this is something that we can set up fairly easily now with today's technology, and market to people. And people are, you know, investors and collectors are looking for this more than ever. And really, there's not a lot of it out there. If you go to any of the major websites that are out there now selling it, it's pretty tough to get. And we can see that that's probably going to be the case for the interim here going forward in this new normal that we're in, because from judging from prices of gold and where things are happening, what's happened with the amount of stimulus that's been created, I think there's going to be a lot of demand for this type of product going forward for your average investor looking for ways to be able to buy an ounce of gold or silver rounds. So it is something that we are seriously considering at this point. We haven't made any announcements yet, but stay tuned for this for it to come, because we are looking at it seriously at this point in time.
And in terms of like costs, like how does, say, like the Peruvian peso or like now input costs in terms of energy have gone way lower? How does that also affect your bottom line?
Well, in Peru they have a new Solis, and
Soleil, so
yeah, and say new because they've actually, the people in Peru, it's not any kind of this situation is not new to them of stimulus and debasing of currencies. They've had two currency resets in the last 30 years. One of I think it was 1,000 to 1 rollback in '85, and then 1,000,000 to 1 rollback in '91. So everyone got wiped out there, except for people who owned hard assets. This was only 35 years ago. So getting back to your, I got sidetracked there just a little bit, but getting back to your question on energy, both of our processing facilities are hooked up to the national power grid, so we're on electricity, and it's very economic, much more than diesel. And so the diesel factor doesn't really come into a big part of our equation at this point in time, thankfully.
Okay, and so again, so we'll do an update in a few months. And one thing I'm trying to do is, who knows what's going on in the world, but because both Peru and the Bahamas, where I reside, are in lockdowns right now. But hopefully when I can travel, I really want to go to your property. And just so you know, I'm going to have an interesting character with me, because I did a bunch of videos from with a guy from Barstool Sports in the Bahamas, and I showed him the video of you guys pouring, the gold, and he's kind of their international correspondent, and he's gun ho about coming down there. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
Well,
so I'm hopefully
we'll get you in for a gold pour.
I'm thinking 6 to 12 months will be the time frame. And silver and gold might be a lot higher by then, but
you would think so.
And I'm hoping it comes
judging by the amount of stimulus, right?
Yeah, exactly, right. So, and actually, that at some point maybe the soul will go like higher because Peru produces so much silver and gold. you know, but
Mm-hmm.
but anyhow, thanks for being here, and we'll do an update in a few months, and hopefully you'll have your physical selling on your website by then. And like I said, for considering this company's market cap, the fact that they did over 25,000 ounces of gold last year, I really think that you guys are an excellent play. And actually, just a few hours before we did this interview, I bought some. So there you go.
Well, let me be the first to welcome you as a new shareholder at Inca One then, David.
Yeah, that's
And I would love to come back and give you an update to you and your listeners once we have made the decision here and launched the gold and silver bullion store, if that's what we're able to, in fact, do, as you're the one that really brought it to my attention of the opportunity out there and really the need for it. So thank you, and we'll continue keeping you updated on it.
Yeah, I will note that was kind of my idea, because it's not so much the case now, but a few months ago, when you had gold and silver tank in the in the paper market, because people were getting liquidated in the markets in March.
Yeah.
So my idea was, there's a huge premium in the physical over the futures market and paper market. So why not just sell the physical if you can personally? And of course, you have to see the overhead costs, logistics, etc. But if you can do it, and it makes more sense for a smaller processor or producer like you than, say, Barrick, because Barrick's going to have to sell in the futures market, right? They can't go out there and sell 10 million ounces of gold, but they can, for someone producing 20, 30, 40,000 ounces, to me, it makes perfect sense,
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And thanks for being here, and we'll talk. Hopefully, hopefully when things open up, we'll be talking over a few Cusqueñas or Pisco Sours in Lima.
Hey, that sounds like a plan. Let's make it happen.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, David.